Welcome in for another episode of SODFS, brought to you by Sons of Dynasty and proud members of True North Fantasy Football. You can follow us at Dynasty Sons and subscribe to the TNFF network so that you never miss a show. Click the bell and it will notify you as soon as we're going live, and you can be here with us each and every Thursday night at 9 o'clock as we break down Sunday's main slate. I'm Dan. You can find me at Dan Brown NFL on Twitter. And here to my left is my co-companion, co-host, the man with the most, Nate. You can find him at Nate_FFL on Twitter. Nate, what's going on, man? Thursday night. Here we are, baby.
We're back again somehow, despite many severe problems this week. We're managed to make it back. And I apologize to both you and Brother Matt for my inconveniences this week, but very quickly, I want to take the focus off myself and direct it to a person that I respect very much within this industry, a person that took me under his wing when I was nothing in 2014, literally just a guy that was trying to find my path within this business. That's Mike Tagliere. As many of you know, he lost his unfortunate battle with COVID last week. And while many of us thought he was getting better, the truth was that it didn't work out that way, and it sucks a lot. Mike was great to a lot of people, and I am one of those people that can say that he was one of the most caring, kind, loving, tentative individuals that I've ever met within this business, because you don't find that a lot around here. So the fact that he took the time to personally call me, coach me, speak with me, email me, try to help me, try to build me up as a writer when I was literally just a guy that nobody knew, speaks volumes of his character. It's just really, it was hard for me the day I found out. I really struggled that day, and the rest of the week's been really tough too. I want to give a shout out to Mike's weekly in-season article, the primer, as well as Matthew Berry's love-hate column. Those two articles literally inspired me to become the fantasy analyst that I am to this day. And while I'll promise you I'll never match up to either of these two individuals, they are the reason that I do what I do right now. Producer Matt has included a link in the description of this. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link to the GoFundMe for Mike Tagliere's family. That's going to go directly to his wife and his two kids that he is survived by. Tags was 39 years old. He leaves behind his wife, Tabby, and their two children, Alyssa and Jonathan. And I promise you, we're all going to miss you within this industry, Tags.
Yeah, as I mentioned pre-show, this was one that hit a little bit harder than I think any other had previously. Tags was instrumental in the community. Everybody pretty much has nothing but nice things to say about him. So heart goes out to Tabby and the kids. And if you have an opportunity to donate, please do. But we are here and we are going to continue on with the show, but do appreciate anybody that can make a contribution of any kind to support the Tagliere family during these troubled times. With that being said, though, Nate, let's move into the accountability from this past week with the SODFS top 5 that we have there at the website of TrueNorthFFB.com. You can find it on a weekly basis, our top 5 DraftKings plays. Let's kick it off, Matt, with Jared Goff and TJ Hawkinson. Nate, how did that turn out for us?
Well, as many of you know that follow us, as far as my favorite stack, it did not go well. I will say that I probably didn't. I mean, it could be a combination of things. I didn't take the Ravens defense seriously enough. It could just be because at some point, these guys aren't going to have top games of their career. But the fact of the matter was, I suggested Jared Goff and TJ Hawkinson at a very low price. DraftKings had them priced extremely low, and it was obviously for a reason, because this was a matchup tougher than I thought. Goff failed to throw a touchdown after 5 in the first 2 games of the season. He was looking really good. It was, however, his first turnover-free game of the Lions' tenure. But with Goff struggling, Hawks struggled, the game script went to trash, and the Ravens matchup was obviously more than I took into consideration. In week 4, they're facing the Bears. In the past, with Stafford at quarterback, this has been a matchup that I would probably jump on, but with Goff there, this is a different animal. I'm very unsure of this matchup heading into, this week. I think 15, 18 points is probably what we should expect. I'm trying to temper my expectations. So I'm just trying to put myself back in the check as we head into week 4.
Yeah, one of my go-to guys that I built around last week was quarterback Justin Herbert, who ended up finishing as the QB4 with 281 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, and ended up on the main slate there with pretty much sub 10% ownership. And I was running him out there with Austin Eckler that we were also big on this past week, and Mike Williams, who continues to dominate there for Justin Herbert as a receiving threat. And they were able to pull out the victory against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. So hat tip to Justin Herbert and co. This past week.
Mike Williams is starting to look like he could be the Chargers' number 1 wide receiver, man. Shout out to him. I no disrespect to Keenan Allen, but Mike Williams is really playing good.
Yeah, what a value he's turned out to be if you partook in any dynasty startups this offseason. He was going pretty late, and reports came out that they were going to get him involved this year, and they have not been wrong. He has been instrumental for Justin Herbert moving the football up and down the field with the touchdown upside that you're not really seeing from Keenan Allen. But moving on to our next one was Chris Godwin, who finished as the wide receiver 12 with 19.5 fantasy points. Godwin recorded 6 receptions on 7 targets for 74 yards while adding a rushing score from 2 yards out. We liked the matchup, and with Antonio Brown being on the COVID list, we knew that maybe a few more opportunities would go his way. While he didn't exactly break the slate, he did come through with a solid fantasy performance. Joe Mixon being the one that we both agreed on was kind of more of one of the bigger not hits this past week. He ended up as the RB25. The volume was there. The everything you're looking for as far as running back usage is there. But once again, no touchdowns and no real receiving work, as the Bengals have really yet to be in a game script where they're looking to air it out. Joe Burrow's volume has remained low compared to what we saw this past year, almost actually cut in half on an attempt per game basis. But I think better days are ahead for Joe Mixon. We'll see. I really like him tonight in tonight's game that's going down. As far as I know, it's only James Robinson with the touchdown. But if Joe Mixon scores, please, somebody in the comments, let me know.
Yeah, let us know, please. Unfortunately, with my lighting setup, I have to unplug my TV, so it's not a great setup here. So I'm not really sure what's going on with the game, but kind of moving on, I want to move into some of the matchups this week because we are restricted for time. But the best thing is I'm moving into one of my favorite guys this week. It's Kirk Cousins. It's the Minnesota Vikings, Cleveland Browns, a 51.5 point projected total. So with this game, Cousins he's basically yet to fail anybody this year. He's scored 25 or more fantasy points in 3 straight games. So when I feel like I suggest him, I feel like this could be the week he fails. It's probably just because it's from a down week, but this matchup it's not excellent, but Cousins, like I said, he's yet to let us down. His floor is really, really, really good. 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 25 or more fantasy points in 3 straight. Last week, he went 30 for 38. That's really good numbers. That's a solid floor. That's a floor that you love in DFS, and at 6,400, there's a lot to love here. He also has great receivers. You can go Justin Jefferson. I believe that Justin Jefferson is priced 7,300. I could be wrong. Yeah, 7,300. Adam Thielen's at 6,800. So early on in this week, I kind of leaned towards Jefferson as my go-to guy. But then the more I thought about it, the more I felt like this is a DK Metcalf week from last week with the Seahawks, where Metcalf is the guy that kind of goes under the radar and kind of, bursts out big. This could be that kind of Adam Thielen week. It's hard to tell really with the Browns defense. They're really solid. It could be a tight end week. It could be a Jefferson, it could be Thielen week. But the one guy that I'm not fading is Kirk Cousins at 6,400. The price is too fair on DraftKings in a week where you cannot find value. or it's hard to find value, you can find a very consistent guy with very solid floor. Why get away from him, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, I want to take a quick second to shout out to my guy Samuel in the comments right now.
I
He's
missed it.
showing up. He's showing up every week for us. So shout out to you, Samuel. We see you, baby. Appreciate you sticking around and catching some NFL news with Nate and I here tonight. Let's move over to the other side of the ball, though. Talk about the Browns. This is a matchup that the Browns have kind of struggled to get things moving with the injuries at the wide receiver position. But that kind of leads me to Odell Beckham again this week, excuse me. He caught 5 of 9 targets for 77 yards in his debut, coming back from the injury, equating to a 31% target share. He also had a rush attempt, showing Cleveland plans to keep him involved. And I think all the opportunity is there with Jarvis Landry on IR. Minnesota is ranking 27th in yards passing allowed per game and have allowed 20 or more fantasy points to a single receiver in every single game so far this year. I think OBJ is going to get all the volume that he can handle right now, and I like him at this price tag of 5,800. There's a lot of wide receivers in that 5 to 6K range that I feel like are a value this week, and OBJ might just be one of them.
That's really fair, man. Honestly, this has been a tough week for me. Everybody behind the scenes knows I've been, trying to catch up on the statistics, but this OBJ stat kind of blows my mind. And with the Minnesota, the matchup, that's really honestly pretty appealing, because who else are you going to look at? Austin Hooper's probably not going to be the guy they lean on. It's going to be OBJ, and that price tag's really fair.
Yeah, Austin Hooper coming in at 3,700 this week. He had a touchdown this past week, and that's kind of what you're banking on if you do end up playing him at 3,700. And with the banged up wide receiver core and hunger for receiving options there for the Browns, I think Austin Hooper is in play this week as a potential punt tight end. But there are a bunch of punt tight ends that I like this week, and I think that's more the direction that I'm leaning. It is paying down at tight end. Chubb to potentially have a bounce back game. We saw Kareem Hunt, the involvement, really outproduced Nick Chubb this past week. And Chubb is still pretty priced up pretty reasonably. So I think he'll have significantly lower ownership this week, just with what we saw Kareem Hunt do this past week. So you might get a little bit of Chubb shares there and some GPP mix-ups as the Vikings have been able to been beaten on the ground, and the running back tandem that they have in Cleveland is almost top notch in the league.
Yeah, it really is, and it really sets that game script for the fact that you're kind of scared for OBJ, because if the Browns get ahead, they're going to run the rock. And so you've got to kind of try to predetermine where you're going to lean on that. Is Cleveland going to be up? Are they going to be down? Are they going to be throwing? If they're throwing, they can still lean on Chubb a lot, or Hunt. But, so that's just something you got to kind of player factor into where you think they're going to go. But it's definitely an appealing matchup for sure.
Let's move on into the next matchup, and that is the Washington football team and the Atlanta Falcons. Over under currently set at 47.5. This is a game that I'm interested in, both as a fan, being an Atlanta Falcons fan, and fantasy-wise, there's a few pieces in this game that I'm willing to take a look at. 47.5 points. That's decent. I could see this game hitting the over. Let's start with Matt Ryan at 5,000. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen just had a get-right game against Washington this past week, throwing for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ryan hasn't been terrible. He has exceeded a 75 completion rate his past 2 games and has a 300-yard outing and 2 multi-touchdown games. And a QB was 111.2 in Atlanta's win over the Giants defense this past week. So Matt Ryan with a 5,000 price tag, he hasn't done it yet this year, but maybe this could be the week. Where are you at with Matt Ryan?
I really like Matt Ryan, but it's only because the price is fair. Moving on to his number 1 wide receiver, Calvin Ridley. The price is 7,000, and somehow at this point in the year, we're at week 4, that price just seems scary to me. It probably shouldn't, but if we're going back through, the previous 3 games this year, he's averaging 14.5 points per game through the first 3 weeks. That's terrifying in terms of DFS. You want to see something more than that. 9.7 targets per game. He has a route run rate of 96%, which that's promising, but the Falcons offense has struggled to a point where, and the defense for that matter, where you really wonder, can you trust these guys? Ryan's at 5K. That's the difference between him and Ridley at 7K. Ryan, if he misses, it's not going to hurt you as bad. Ridley at 7K, that sucks. With that said, you cannot base everything on the first 3 games. He's priced down due to poor performance. This is a great week to roll that dice on Ridley, take that shot in that GPP, and figure he really fulfills his potential and goes back to his normal form. It's a good matchup. Hopefully it happens. There's a gamble there though, and you have to respect that.
Yeah, definitely. I do like Ridley this week, and what I'm hoping Matt Ryan and him can kind of get right. Maybe even include Kyle Pitts, who's been a little bit of a disappointment to start the year, but still, once again, kind of in top 5 numbers as far as what you're looking for out of the tight end position. So I think better days are ahead for this Atlanta offense as they kind of get together. It's really just the coaching staff that I feel like hasn't really put together a game plan that is conducive to the weapons around Matt Ryan. So, hopefully Arthur Smith can get his shit together and start to call some better plays. We have Cordell Patterson at 4,900 this week. He led the Falcons in receiving yards and trailed only Calvin Ridley in receptions and targets this past week. Now he has 7 carries and 7 targets each of the past 2 weeks. Seems to really kind of be vulturing away anything that we hoped Mike Davis was going to be getting. Lots of work to be had, but Cordell Patterson really almost seems like the back that if I'm going to get any exposure to, I'd much rather have him over Mike Davis at this part, just with the receiving work that we're seeing out of Cordero. But I really like Terry McLaurin at 6,900 this week. He's got a great matchups. Falcons have surrendered 2.5 touchdowns through the air each week thus far. And I expect Terry to probably see double-digit targets this week and at least have 1, if not 2 touchdowns. And at 6,900 against my Atlanta Falcons, Terry McLaurin is a lock for my cash lineups this week.
So, as many of you guys know, we're major fantasy football junkies. We've been drafting since the Super Bowl ended. Dan, I can speak for Dan and myself because I have the proof. Going back to like a lot of our dynasty leagues and going back just in a lot of just different random leagues, we've been drafting forever. So Mike Davis was this very late pick that we all said, who's going to take his carries? Nobody can do it. Jadeveon Hawkins was a guy that a lot of us targeted. I still have him in a lot of leagues that I haven't dropped because I can't keep up with my 48 leagues. It wasn't him. Cordell Patterson has proven to be a significant option with these Falcons. A lot of it has to do with his I see you. A lot of it has to do with his receiving ability and, his pass catching abilities and stuff like that. But hey, he's somebody worth keeping an eye on because he's legit. And in DFS, it doesn't take, great football. It just takes great numbers. And we're getting great fantasy numbers out of him at $4,900 this week. You've got to keep him in contention.
Well, let's talk Antonio Gibson. He got bottled up this past week against Buffalo, but he did end up taking that screen pass 73 yards, which kind of salvaged his day. I've been getting the updates, as I'm sure many of you had. He missed practice today with a shin injury. If for whatever reason he were to miss time, I think J.D. McKissick could definitely be in play. And maybe even Patterson. I'm not sure what his price tag is, but I'm sure it's probably the running back minimum or in there. But let's move on to the next game. That's the Chiefs at the Eagles with one of the higher over-unders of the week sitting at 54. But, I'm looking at this game as I'm making my builds. And, Pat Mahomes, 8,100, Travis Kelce, 8,200, Tyreek Hill, 8,000. That they all feel somewhat pricey for whatever reason this week, and I struggle to get them into builds. If I am gonna go for it, it'd probably just be a Pat Mahomes and maybe a Travis Kelce, and look for one of the ancillary pieces. If McCole Hardman's still priced down in the right around 4,000 range, maybe somewhere in there. But I find in my builds it's hard for me to pay up for the Chiefs this week, going against an Eagles defense that, while not a stout defense, has looked decent in stopping opposing quarterbacks through the first few weeks here. Where are you at with the Chiefs this week, Nate?
I think that, we have the obvious pay up options. We have Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill all above $8,000. Obviously, if you play them, you're probably going to get your 30 points or more that you expect. But then, my real attention goes to CEH at 5,400. He was a major talk on DFS podcast last week, and he came through. But, however, is that sustainable? Because he's disappointed us 95 or 90% of his career this far. I'm not going to lie. I'm not buying in. I think for me, he's an avoid this week. I will have him in a few lineups, but I'm not sold on it. Even at this very low price tag where we think we're going to, hit pay dirt, I don't think it's a given at all. Andy Reid's a very unpredictable coach, and CEH is a very, very unreliable running back.
Well, just the fact, though, that Andy Reid was willing to stick with him coming off of the game-losing fumble the week before, and early in this past week, he fumbled, and he really still didn't really have to pay the piper for that. Andy Reid has shown that he's confident in sticking him in there. Yeah, Williams did maybe get a couple of extra snaps, but nothing substantial. With Clyde Edwards-Helaire here at 5,400, there's not a ton of running backs that I think are going to see the work that he's going to see with a cheaper price tag than that. Really, if I'm getting in anywhere on this Chiefs game, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the piece that I'm after.
Hey, and I respect that, man. It's nothing but respect for that and your opinions. I love you to death, and 9 times out of 10 you're right, but something is just telling me that we can go this week and we can all lock him in at a 26% ownership, and he puts up 7 points. That's just how I feel. I mean, I've been wrong a lot. Could be wrong again.
Well, let's jump over to the other side of the ball and talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts, who might be the only piece that I'd really be considering this week from the Philly offense. He's coming in at 6,900. This past week, he completed 25 of 39 passes for 326 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in the loss to the Cowboys. He also rushed 9 times for 35 yards. Started out looking pretty bad towards the beginning of the game, but as the game got further out of hand, the Eagles just kind of kept their foot on the gas and were able to close the gap to a degree, allowing Jalen Hurts to really kind of save his fantasy day. Once again, he's going to be asked to put up major points again this week. And, I don't know that the coaching staff is really prepared. Why didn't they give Miles Sanders more opportunities this past week? He's a good player, and it was a good opportunity, and it just seemed like Sirianni just didn't want to get Sanders as involved as I think he should be, taking a little bit more pressure off of Jalen, and Jalen doesn't seem to be running as much as we'd hoped he would. Yeah, he did have the nine rushes for 35 yards, but that's just meat and potatoes that we're missing with Jalen Hurts, and that's what we've come to expect with them as a quarterback play. So I find myself a little bit hesitant to plug Jalen Hurts here, even at 6,900. I think you pay up a little bit more and you can get a couple of better options there at the quarterback position. But Quez Watkins as a sleeper, as coaches there in the comments, in a game like this with a high over under and a game that you expect the Eagles to be trailing, obviously that's a quality play. But let's move on over into the next game, Nate. Let's talk a little bit of Colts and Dolphins. I'm not sure what to make of this game. The over-under currently set at 43. We've got banged up quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks. Where are you at in this game, Nate? Who do you find yourself targeting? Is this a JT smash week?
Real quickly, though, I do want to jump back to the Eagles Chiefs game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Either Dan or Brother Matt, our producer, or even Coach Craig, we know he's listening attentively. Am I wrong in the fact that the Eagles running backs had 4 carries? I'm pretty sure Miles Sanders had 3, and I'm almost positive Kenny Gainwell. I can hear you. Kenny Gainwell had 1, correct? 4 carries total for the Eagles running backs. If I'm wrong, I'll give Coach Craig $5. Almost positive. I can't swear in here anymore. That's absolutely absurd. We cannot. That's
That's dog shit.
Jonathan. Thank you. Oh my God, I thought I was the only one that did that. Jalen Hurts might have had 9 carries, but they didn't do nothing. That's why the Eagles lost. That's shit coaching. It's bullshit, absolute trash coaching, and we won't go into that any farther. What we will do is go on to the game. You had mentioned the Colts, the Dolphins. It's so sloppy and so damn gross, and I've lost faith in Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah,
I was so up and down on Jonathan Taylor all offseason. I was up, I was down, I was up, I was down. I'm admit to right when I will always admit when I'm wrong about a player. Just like DJ Moore. I put it out on Sports Me app this week. I was by far wrong. That guy is a stud. Another guy I'm wrong on is Jonathan Taylor because he looks like shit, and it's really, really killing me. He's not playing horrible. He's got opportunity, and that's what makes it horrible. Could he smash this week against the Dolphins defense that used to be good and is no longer worth a shit? Quite possibly. Miami has struggled to contain the run. They're ranked 27th against running backs and PPR. So if Jonathan Taylor does not break out this week, I have to throw myself under the bus.
Yeah, at 6,300, I was off of JT this past week, as you know.
It's still too highly priced.
This is a week that I find myself maybe wanting to get in. The Colts should be able to win this game against a Jacoby Brissett-led Dolphins team, and JT it should get the opportunities. But if you are, I think JT could actually see some decent substantial ownership this week, just given the matchup. But I think Hines coming in at 4,900 might actually present some value itself too. So if you are looking to get a piece of this game and don't want to pay up for JT, I think Hines is a viable play there at the running back position if you're looking to get sub 5K.
Nyheim Hines is the far better play at 4,900. Play him over Jonathan Taylor. I take back everything I ever said.
Paris Campbell coming in at 3,200. I know Coach likes him as a potential punt play of the week, paying all the way down there. Where are you at Paris Campbell? I haven't been anywhere near Paris Campbell pretty much since week 1. Anything for you?
It depends on how many studs I'm paying up for. If I want Travis Kelce and I want, Tyreek Hill and I want Patrick Mahomes in my lineup, then you're going to have to find some kind of ridiculous value. If you're paying for guys like Jamar Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, you're not really going to have to dig down to that 3,200 mark. So depends on your roster construction completely for me.
A guy who I find myself kind of looking towards this week is Jalen Waddle coming in at 4,900. Waddle's 58 yards were the fewest receiver that any receiver has ever had with 12 or more catches in an NFL game in history.
That sucks.
So while the targets are there, the ADOT, is similar to that to Laviska Shenault, who is playing right now on Thursday Night Football, and probably 2 of the lowest in the leagues. But Brissett seems to be wanting to get these short little passes out quickly. Jalen Waddle at 4,900, you can almost bank him in for 7 or 8 catches. And while the yardage was not there this past week, it only takes 1 missed tackle for Jalen Waddle to take it to the house. Potentially that could be this week. And at 4,900, I might have a little bit of exposure.
Yeah, I can buy in on Waddle. I can't buy in really right now on the Dolphins' entire offense. And I'm sure Coach has a lot to say because I was bought in on Tua, and he hates Tua. With Waddle and, the backup quarterback situation, it is really iffy. It's super, could be, could not be. If 4,900, though, that's where it's okay because the price is okay. In DFS, it's all about what you're paying. It's all about the value. It's all about the price. You want your player to hit value, and they're going to hit value at 4,900 if they even catch 1 touchdown. So you're good there, especially in GPPs. Cash, I would not touch it, but GPPs, you're good to go. Going on to the next game, we got Giants Saints 42 point under Alvin Kamara 8,400. I'm seeing a lot of people really loving Kamara. He's at 8,400. He's one of the higher priced running backs. Through 3 games, Kamara's played 84% of New Orleans offensive snaps, while also handling 84% of the running back carries. Those are astonishing numbers. There's a lot of reason to buy in on Kamara. For me, I'm not sold. I'm really not. And I know you're going to hate on that. I know you're not going to like it. But personally, with Jameis Winston at quarterback and Kamara, at running back, 8,400, that's a high-ass price tag, man. You're looking for what? You're looking for 24, 25 points to hit value. Do you think that's going to happen, Dan?
Well, you're banking on what happened this past week to happen again this week, and the Saints' offense has been one that doesn't seem capable of consistency at this point.
No, hell
and while
no.
I liked the usage I saw out of Kamara this past week, 8,400, even with this cake matchup, feels a little bit pricey. Obviously, if I'm able to, pay down in a couple of other spots, I think Kamara will probably be right there around 10 to 12% ownership this week, just given the juicy matchup and what happened this past week. 8,400, that is a nice ticket there for Kamara, but I think you're kind of buying last week's production, even though we do think that this week he could have another good outing. I just need to see it again before I'm really ready to buy back into the Jameis Winston-led Saints offense. One guy, though, here on this same game is Evan Ingram, coming in at a bottom of the barrel $3,000 pricing. Last week was not obviously great for Ingram, couple of catches. I believe he also had a fumble, but he ran a route on 71% of Danny Dimes dropbacks and seeing 4 targets and catching 2 for 21. Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, both are going to continue to be out as far as I'm aware. So Evan Ingram essentially finds himself number 2 in the pecking order as far as targets go. And at 3,000 in this game, Saints defense, obviously a tough matchup, but Danny Dimes doesn't have many options in what we once considered a watered down receiving core. Due to the many options he has, it's suddenly been constricted. And at $3,000, I think you couldn't go wrong there playing Evan Ingram. It doesn't take much, a couple of catches, potentially falling in the end zone, and he's paid off his price tag easily.
Well, when you're paying for a player that's at bare minimum pricing, yeah, I mean, it's like facing a showdown slate where you're picking up a guy for 200. So odds are he will probably suck, but if he scores 1 touchdown, you could win a GPP.
Let's move on into the Lions at the Bears. Nate, I will let you take the lead on this, you being our Detroit Lion homer. And this is one of our smash plays of the week. And I think it's going to be chalk at this point with the reports coming out from Dan Campbell. But Nate, take us away on star running back DeAndre Swift coming in at 6,200.
You know what I really, really love about this is that Swift had a down week last week, so people are going to bring out that hate. We had a lot of people bring out, right the wrong for their sins of hating DeAndre Swift over the offseason. He had a down week last week. It's going to happen. There's no point in fantasy football or DFS or any of this crap where, a player's not going to have a down week. DeAndre Swift had a down week last week against the Ravens defense that is no effing joke. So the thing is, this week we head into week 4. It's a new week. There's a 42 point over under. DeAndre Swift is priced at 6,200 on DraftKings. I just really wonder if people are going to put any respect on DeAndre Swift's name. The reason is because it doesn't look very attractive on paper. Through 3 weeks, no games, not one damn game of over 50 rushing yards. That's not what I told people to look for coming into the season. You can go back at True North Fantasy Football, look at my DeAndre Swift article. I had one at Detroit Jack City. We weren't looking for rushing yards. We're looking for the reception work. It's PPR scoring in DraftKings. It's PPR scoring in 90% of the leagues that people play fantasy football in. He's getting the receiving work. What we want is that he had 7 receptions last week. And, while touchdowns are great, we're really looking just for the complete pass catching opportunity. Swift has a really optimal game against the Bears defense this week. The price is beyond affordable at 6,200. Swift has 23 targets. That ranks second among running backs and 25th among wide receivers, averaging 20 DK points per game, which that is second among running backs in targets and receptions. And he's priced at 6,200. People are going to be still avoiding him because for some reason there's this hate train on Swift. Could he be a letdown this week? He absolutely could. I mean, he's due for a letdown. No, nothing is sustainable where you're scoring 20 plus fantasy points. You know what I mean? There's always going to be that week where there's a letdown that comes. It could happen with Cousins this week too. It's just going to happen with everybody. That you can't score just these ridiculous fantasy numbers every week. It could happen with Swift this week. But why bet against it? It's 6,200. Why not just invest that 6,200 into him and just, think, hey, there's another 20, 23, 18, whatever fantasy points. That's a good number.
Yeah, no, I like I mentioned, I think Swift is an absolute smash this week at 6,200 on DK. That's just it's almost got to be a misprice as far as I'm concerned for a PPR format.
Yeah, it's a mistake for sure.
6,200. I don't care if it's GPP cash. You can lock Swift in this week. Let's talk $400 cheaper though on the other side of the ball with David Montgomery at 5,800. Running backs have gained 356 combined yards with 6 touchdowns and 9 catches versus the Lions thus far this year. Even with the Bears' offensive struggles, Monty is a decent play this week against the Lions. With that price tag too, that's reasonable. It's just the uncertainty that we saw surrounding Justin Fields and this Bear-led offense this past week kind of has me hesitating on really getting aboard any pieces on this Bears offense this week, even against a juicy matchup like the Lions. But if you really want to get a little contrarian, if Justin Fields is named the starter again this week, as bad as he looked this past week, it might be just the week to go back to him with this matchup against the Lions. And maybe he produces like we thought he was going to produce this past week.
You know what? You want to know like the ultimate conundrum, being a Detroit Lions fan, a Michigan football fan, and rooting for Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State and playing for the Chicago Bears, because you know what? I'm fully invested in Fields. I hope he starts this week, and I hope he whoops our ass.
Let's move on into the next game. This is another game that I'm pretty excited about this week. It's the Panthers at the Cowboys, 51.5 as far as the points go. It's two teams that have played pretty well thus far to start the year. Dak Prescott coming in with a reasonable price tag at 6,700. He now boasts 6 touchdowns versus 2 interceptions and has completed over 75% of his passes through 3 games. He should have a chance to put up some points through the air this week, as the Panthers' run defense really seems to be more of the legit factor as far as their defense goes. They haven't really had any tough competition, especially as far as stacking up against a Dak Prescott-like quarterback and his receiving core to boot. I am in on Dak Prescott at 6,700, as I think Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard might get bottled up in the run game, forcing Dak Prescott to take it through the air a little bit more this week.
I feel like we've taken the full rotation because these Cowboys have broken my heart so much this year in redraft leagues and dynasty leagues. I have so much CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Dak Prescott. And while they haven't been bad, I think I expected a bit too much. DJ Moore is a guy that I definitely disrespected this last offseason. I said that he wasn't going to produce. I was fully wrong. My hands are up. I am sorry. He's the real deal. I mean, he's putting up, an average of, I'm not even positive of the number, but it's probably roughly 18 to 22 points a game right now through the first 3 weeks. Sam Darnold is priced at 6K. DJ Moore is at 6,600. This is a good stack on DraftKings, and I've had a lot of naysayers. I won't mention names, but I feel like this is a pretty good stack on DK this week, considering the matchup. It's a good matchup. I mean, you're getting 2 guys at a very, very fair price, and 2 guys that have produced to start the year. I was kind of more in on Robbie Anderson as we rolled into this week, because looking back to last year when CMC went down, Robbie Anderson was the guy that got the underneath targets, but that hasn't been the case so far this year. It's a different quarterback. That's the freaking reason. So I'm kind of leaning more on DJ Moore, Sam Darnold, and I'll take a look at Robbie Anderson. I think Robbie Anderson's priced at what, 51? Is he priced at 5,100?
Yeah,
5,100. Yeah, that's a pretty decent price too. So I'll take a couple gambles on him, but man, this is a sweet stack this week. And a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people are hating on me, but I think this is a great stack.
Yeah, the only downside with DJ Moore this week is that he does have a potential shadow cover. Trevon Diggs, who we saw in primetime football, really kind of come to play. He seems to be the heart and soul of that Dallas defense right now, talking the smack, seeing everything that you want to see out of, what we expect to be one of the next elite defensive backs in this league.
He's all they have, though.
If he does end up shadowing DJ Moore, it could end up being a tougher matchup. And right on cue, there is Coach. I do like Terrace Marshall for 4,000 this week. Once again, with CMC out, there's going to be a few 6 to 7 plus targets to go around. And the tight end situation, Dan Arnold now departing, playing right now on Thursday Night Football for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The passing opportunity is plentiful there, and I do like Terrace Marshall if you are looking to pivot away from DJ Moore with the tough matchup as far as coverage goes.
Coach, I hope you definitely know I love you, and I respect all of your opinions, and you're a very, very, very smart guy. But if it's DJ Moore that goes away, then I'm leaning on Robbie Anderson. That's just how I feel about it. And if Robbie Anderson goes away, then maybe I'll move to Terrace Marshall. But I'm putting Robbie Anderson far before him.
Let me talk a few minutes about Chuba Hubbard, obviously a popular name, and I think he will be popular also on this slate at 5,900. But if I can, I'm obviously going to try to get up another $300 to get to our smash of the week with Swift. But I don't mind having a little bit of Chuba exposure this week. CMC is out for the next few weeks. Hubbard is the Panthers back that could be a factor. In his absence, he posted an 11 for 52 yards rushing, 3 for 27 receiving on 5 targets against the Texans, while Royce Freeman finished 5 for 17 rushing and an 8-yard catch. Hubbard played 40 snaps with Freeman only playing 11, which is a pretty good indication of the usage that we could see this week. Over his last 20 healthy games, McCaffrey has averaged 28.8 fantasy points per game. Holy smokes. So 60 to 70% of that, let's say, for Chuba Hubbard this week. And, I think that could be somewhere right around between 16 to 21 fantasy points here this week. And, those are really top 10 numbers for the running back position that I expect this week. And at 5,900, I'm looking to get a little bit of exposure.
Chuba Hubbard is obviously extremely appealing in redraft leagues, especially away from DFS, which I know we're not covering, but I know it's, a lot of people are blowing like all their damn fab on him. I like Chuba Hubbard, but I'm not going to be one of them guys that is just, investing fully on him. I need to see more. He's got a great opportunity. Royce Freeman, I believe, is his backup, but he's not much of a backup. I don't think these underneath receptions go to Chuba Hubbard, and that's what makes Christian McCaffrey appealable. I believe it's Robbie Anderson that's going to benefit from this. You guys can think I'm crazy, but that's just how I feel.
I'd love to see it. Robbie Anderson has yet to really stand up yet this season, so
I know
this might be the get right spot. And at 5,100, I don't mind that call at all. But to keep it moving, Nate, let's move on into the Texans at the Bills. Over under set at 47 currently, and let's start with the one and only Texans option that anybody's going to be looking at, as far as I'm concerned. Brandon Cooks set at 6,400. All Cooks does is put up points and remain undervalued through 3 weeks. Brandon Cooks is tied with Devontae Adams as the overall wide receiver 6 with 20.6 fantasy points per game. In week 4, Texans come in as a 17-point underdog against the Josh Allen-led Bills. That should lead to a ton of volume for the guy that is second in the NFL as far as target share goes with 37.6%. Davis Mills has attempted 46 passes this season, and Cooks has been targeted on 20 of them for a whopping 44%. I just don't see Brandon Cooks getting under double-digit targets this week as the Texans try to keep up with the Bills. I also want to take a minute to just kind of toot our horn on the Josh Allen call this past week. He was coming in at a reasonable 7,000 and yet to really pop this year, so it seemed like a get-right game. We did do the stack with Emmanuel Sanders, who was able to get loose for 2 touchdown grabs, unfortunately stacking him with Diggs, who has kind of underwhelmed thus far this season. And again, Diggs coming in at 7,600 this week. While it might be a week to capitalize on the low ownership, it feels a little pricey, and there's guys that I like for about $500 less, more even than Diggs this week. But Josh Allen coming in at 8,000 might be a spot that you could get in again for the Josh Allen tree. I just think it might be a tad bit more popular this week, and with all the options to choose from. Is it Cole Beasley? Is it Emmanuel Sanders? Last week the optimal may have been a Josh Allen, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders stack rather than getting the Stephon Diggs exposure that we did get.
So I have a couple recipes to this, and I am fully in on the Josh Allen thing. Last week, he completed 32 of 43 passes for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Before that, he did not look great this year. Trust me, I own him in a lot of redraft leagues, and I've been disappointed as crap. So with that in mind, we're moving on to like the DFS aspect of this. At $8,000, he's priced up $1,000 over last week. It's really tough, but I will tell you what, I'm going to put him into a couple GPPs. So where do you go from there at wide receiver? You have Diggs at 7,600. You have Emmanuel Sanders, 49. Zach Moss is the running back at 53. Cole Beasley at 5,400. That's honestly where I'm leaning as far as GPPs go. I do have a couple GPPs built with Josh Allen and Cole Beasley. In 2 of 3 games, we've seen 13 targets total. That's not 13 targets through the 2 games. That's an average of 13 targets through 2 games. That's because there was one game where there was like a down week or whatever. I do like Beasley this week. I think his double-digit score is extremely possible at 5,400. That makes your value really, 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 really good. If Beasley can catch just 1 touchdown this week at 5,400, you're looking at a score of 20 points, and you've hit pay dirt. You're good to go on GPPs. So with that in mind, I'm not talking stacking Allen and Beasley, or even Allen and Emmanuel Sanders, even Allen and Diggs. I'm scared of Allen with anybody in cash, but I'm going to lean Allen with, a wide receiver here or there in GPPs.
Yeah, I like that call, definitely. Let's move on into the Titans at the Jets, 45.5 over under. This is a game that we won't spend much time on. There's really only one piece that I'm interested in, and that is King Henry coming in at the RB1 on this slate at 8,800. Massive workload, keeps rolling. Henry rushed 28 times for 113 yards and caught all 3 of his targets this past week in the win over the Colts. A.J. Brown banged up, Julio Jones banged up. Titans passing attack has looked suspect thus far through 3 weeks. The only thing that has looked sustainable is the workload for Derrick Henry, and he's getting the receiving work to boot. That's just one thing that we didn't really see happening into this year. And here is Derrick Henry, top 10 in running back targets through the first 3 weeks. On DK at 8,800, I don't know that that's high enough. So against this Jets defense, I could just see Derrick Henry once again just having a massive workload and obliterating this Jets defense all day long.
That price is like just a bit too high for me, man. I love Derrick Henry, but that price is just kind of it's just kind of like to the point where you're like, if he doesn't score 25, you're kind of effed. With that said, I'm going to move on with the show a little bit. We're going to go into the Monkey Knife Fight ad read. Monkey Knife Fight is the fastest growing DFS platform in the industry right now, affiliated with NFL, MLB, and NHL teams. Their product is as strong as their brand power. With DFS prop games and all sports leagues and skill levels, they are sure to have something for you. If you get into the action, you can sign up at monkeyknifefight.com and use the promo code TNFF on your first deposit for an instant match of up to $50. So if you drop $50 into your first deposit, Monkey Knife Fight matches, and you've got 100 bones in there to start playing. Again, that is monkeyknifefight.com. The promo code is TNFF to be used on your first deposit.
I have a prop pulled up here for us this week, and it's one of the games that we're targeting, and that is the Rams and the Cardinals. And the prop here is the passing yards for both Kyler Murray and Matthew Stafford. They have Matthew Stafford set at 305.5 and Kyler Murray at 299.5. So where are you at on these games? This is a game that we like. We like both passing attacks. You think that both of them are good for 300 plus? Are we going to see 600 plus yards of passing offense in this matchup?
You've got to put a lot of thought into this. I have seen this on the show sheet. I'm not going to lie. First time I've put any real thought into it. I will lean the side of Matthew Stafford more at 305.5. And I'm going to actually take the under on Kyler Murray at 299.5 because I think he's going to run the ball a little bit more than he normally does.
Same page. I'm right there with you. I do like Stafford to hit the over and Kyler Murray on the under, but I do think that Kyler Murray will still be a top 5 quarterback this week.
That's super freaking tough.
So, but I am going to take the under with you. You know, DeAndre Hopkins a little banged up, but we are actually going to get into this game where we can talk about it a little bit more as we enter the afternoon game, starting with the Cardinals at the Rams, 54.5 for the points here, and starting out with Kyler Murray at 7,800. That's not a bad price. Murray currently ranks 3rd in the NFL with 1,005 yards passing and 7 touchdowns. This puts his season average at 335 yards passing per game. So for us to take the under here seems pretty bold, but Murray takes on a Rams defense and as 6-point underdogs in the game script with a 54.5 point total. We should see Murray have to really push his team all game long, leading to massive upside with this shootout. But this was the first time that Kyler failed to rush for 20-plus yards or throw a touchdown, snapping his 11-game streak for both metrics. Throughout his career, Kyler has averaged a completely insane 29.6 DK points per game in games in which the over-under was 52.5 plus. This is a decent price tag at 7,800 considering the metrics that I just read to you.
So I agree with you on Kyler. Kyler is probably the only Arizona Cardinal I'm going to even think of playing. I see in our show sheet, we've got Christian Kirk mentioned at 5,300. We have Chase Edmonds mentioned at 5,500. I have probably negative 50 interest in both of these guys. The guys I do like, Matthew Stafford at 7K. You guys can call me Stafford homers all you want. It's probably going to happen. Cooper Kupp, 7,800. He's finally priced up to the point where he should be because he's producing at a elite wide receiver 1 level. Stafford's being mentioned as NFL MVP. Kupp is, I freaking guarantee it, is not right behind him. Both of these guys, if you're playing cash DFS, if you're not putting them in your lineup, you're probably not going to cash. And if you do, it's because you hit on the other 6 players, luckily. Kupp has 33 targets right now, 5 touchdowns through the first 3 weeks. That's absolutely bonkers as far as NFL football goes. They're, like I said, they're priced up, but these guys are producing at a level far higher than other quarterback duos that we're used to seeing, like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. These guys are where it's at right now, and you are not going to go wrong in cash DFS. Again, this is cash. GPPs, I'm not at this point. Their ownership's probably going to be over 30%. It was 26.5 last week in the Millie Maker, I believe. It'll be higher this week. You're still not going to go wrong. Don't not play your studs because these guys are where the shit's at.
Let's move on into the Seahawks at 49ers with 52.5 point total. Russell Wilson, 7,100, so just a hair more expensive than Matthew Stafford and about $700 cheaper than Kyler himself. Russell Wilson might be in play this week. 49ers have not been great on defense, and we might actually have a chance with Tyler Lockett banged up to really hone in on DK Metcalf this week. I think Metcalf's ownership will be sky high if Lockett is indeed ruled out. But being able to get Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and maybe Freddie Swain, who happens to be a show favorite, could be a potential way to get in on this game. Maybe even bring it back with a Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk, who comes in at 5,000 this week. And after snap share in each of the 49ers' first two games below 55%, this past week we saw Ayuk play 86% of the snaps versus the Packers, and he turned in a fantasy-relevant performance with 4 for 37 and 1 receiving on 6 targets and a single 8-yard rush. Week 3, he ran a route on 44 of 48 dropbacks. I think that Ayuk is finally out of the doghouse, and 5,000 is a reasonable price this week in what I kind of like as another sneaky shootout. So I'll probably have a few stacks built around this game, starting with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf as my primary options.
I think you're really, 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 really putting yourself on the line with these guys. I respect what you got. Hey, I respect what you got going on. As far as actually playing these guys, I don't really see how you can have faith in playing Jimmy G or Brandon Ayuk. How the hell can you really feel comfortable doing that? The point total is great. The point total is right probably 85% of the time. It's fine, man. I personally am avoiding them because I just feel like there's other good plays elsewhere, and I would rather avoid it. But with all due respect to you, touche.
All right, we're gonna come back and we'll see how Ayuk and Jimmy G fare this time next week. But moving on into the Ravens at the Broncos, another game that I don't have a ton of exposure to in most of my builds I have at this point. Point total set at 44. But let's talk about Tim Patrick at 4,900. He caught all five of his targets, a 20% share for 98 yards to lead Denver's passing attack against these Jets in week 3. And he tied Cortland Sutton for a team high 76% of snaps. Patrick now has 8 touchdowns in his last 15 games, and as the wide receiver core there in Denver seems to get thinner and thinner as each week passes, Patrick's role might be more prominent and more regular on a weekly basis. He's technically their clear number 2 right now moving forward for these Broncos, and at 4,900, I don't mind getting a piece potentially with a Teddy Bridgewater stack if you're looking to get contrarian in a GPP. I know Coach Craig loves some Tim Patrick.
We see you, Coach. We see you. Chill. Tim Patrick is fine. I like Tim Patrick. He's okay. 4,900 is a good price. I'll tell you that. Tim Patrick last year, in one of my redraft leagues, I was forced to play. I drafted real heavy at rookie wide receiver. I had Claypool, I had Higgins, I had Ayuk, and I had Patrick, who wasn't a rookie, but he was still relatively unknown to the league. He really filled in well for me. As far as DFS goes, I'm not buying in on a week-to-week basis on Tim Patrick scoring me at least. You want 15 points, at least at 4,900. Might not happen. I do, however, like Noah Fant. Fant's not, the most appealing thing. Teddy Bridgewater's a quarterback now. I think that's better for Fant, honestly, than Drew Lock was, despite what Coach is a very heavy Drew Lock believer. I'm not bought in on that. at all. Jerry Jeudy is going to be out for the moment. 17 targets already equated to an 18% target share with the upside for more. So I'm kind of liking Fant moving forward. 4,300 is very cheap, very, very, very cheap. So let's buy in on that, while we can.
And getting in here on the hour mark, let's go ahead and move to our last game. That is the Steelers at the Packers,
This goes
45 and
quick.
a half. What let's get started with Najee Harris, 6,800, a little bit of a price up this week. But after what we saw this past week with Deontay Johnson out and then the injury to Juju, Harris saw 19 targets, falling one target shy of an NFL record for a running back. That's straight bell cow usage with opportunity to boot right there. And actually, I was reading an article from Scott Barrett, and check out this little nugget I got from him. Harris now ranks second among all running backs in expected fantasy points per game with 22.4. He leads all running backs in snap percentage with 96, while the next closest running back ranks a sizable distance behind him, Alvin Kamara, with 80%. 14 carries per game, 9.3 targets per game, and 99.5 of the backfield's expected touchdowns. That's pretty significant for a fantasy football piece. And I don't mind going back to Najee Harris this week, potentially, in what's a game I'm expecting them to be losing to the Packers. Najee Harris could get some substantial work again in the passing game, even though I believe darling Deontay Johnson will be back this week, potentially Juju as well. But Najee Harris might be a tad pricey and might have ownership that reflects what we saw this past week with that target distribution. And I don't think that he'll get to double-digit targets again this week.
You absolutely cannot not respect the great work of one of the best fantasy analysts of all time in Scott Barrett. He's astounding. His work, speaks for itself. He is absolutely amazing. Najee Harris, I've never doubted him. I bought in on more running backs prior to, the season starting and us getting through these 4 weeks. I was a lot of people know I'm a big Javonte Williams guy. There's not one of these guys that have really blown the doors off. So we're still sitting here. We're waiting to see, what kind of production is going to come. I think Najee is a fantastic running back. I think he's a great play against the Packers, especially in a game, where there's a 45.5 point projected point total. Najee is really good. His price is creeping. It's going to creep. He's at 6,800 now. I think he was 63 last week. The week before, I believe he was 61. He's creeping up slowly every week. So if you want to get Najee in your lineups before he hits that $9,000 mark, which is going to happen come week 11, 12, you're going to be overpaying for Najee come soon. So get him in now while you can. With that in mind, I also think you have to expect I think you have to expect the possibility for a down game because he's still a rookie. He's still a young guy, even at 24 years old. He's not the youngest rookie in the league. He's one of the older rookies entering the NFL, but there's going to be games where he's not going to perform. So is it going to be this week? Could it be next week? Could it be the week after? Could it be, week 7? Who knows? But he's playing the Packers this week. Point total projected is 45.5. So I think it could happen, but I think expectations I really feel like are getting out of check right now. It's something I totally went off on. It's not on the show sheet. Something I just wanted to mention. I just feel like we really need to keep our expectations in check, and that goes with all rookies, because this is a learning curve for them as much as it is for us as fantasy analysts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, each week we're going to get better. They're going to get better. And we're both growing here at the same time. We do appreciate anybody who did tune in tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We do ask that you tune in every week and give us feedback on how we can get better. Make sure you are following Sons of Dynasty at Dynasty Sons. And big shout out to brother Matt, who is here on the show with us as well. You can find him at Dynasty Dude on Twitter, and that's at DY_nasty dude. Also, be sure to follow the True North FFB. That's at True North FFB. Nate, our article will be out sometime tomorrow, maybe as late as Saturday morning for our top 5 DraftKings plays this week.
Yeah, I want to give a quick apology to everybody. I went through some technical difficulties. My computer went through some downtime this week. And unfortunately, I work a 50-hour-a-week salary job, so I don't have, as much free time as I would like to be able to fill in these time slots where I'm able to write my articles and things like that. So my article, myself and Dan's article, will be written tomorrow night. It will be published Saturday morning at 8 a.m. That is the quickest I can possibly get it out without interfering with, my children and things like that. So we will be a day late this week. It won't be a consistent thing. We're back up and running. I'm happy that we're back. I'm thankful, very thankful. I want to give a shout out to Dan because he picked up a lot of the slack this week as far as doing our research and our statistic stuff and things like that. Dan really, 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 really picked up the ball that I unfortunately had to drop just as a natural result of, losing a computer. That shit happens and it's going to happen. And thankfully, Dan had my back enough to be able to do that. Brother Matt always has our back. He's always there. He's behind the scenes. You guys do not see him. You probably won't see him much, even though we wish we could show him more. He's an absolutely amazing guy. He's always helping us. He's in our show notes right now. Brother Matt is absolutely great. He's, he deserves far more respect than he gets. Without Brother Matt, the show isn't shit, really. It's really not going anywhere. We're probably sitting here flipping through overlays, trying to figure out what we're doing while we're talking, and that's just not going to happen for two guys who are new to this. So for everybody that's been out here watching us, liking our videos, giving us, views on YouTube, Anchor, all that stuff, Spotify, we really, 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 truly, greatly appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. And we also want to send one more thank you to Mike Taglia's family. We really love you guys, and we're here, we're thinking about you, and you're in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, anybody who did tune in tonight, we appreciate you and hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Thursday night football second half is underway, and the Bengals are getting shellacked by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm going to catch a little bit of that here to close out the night. But if you have any questions regarding the NFL main slate for this Sunday, hit us up on Twitter at Dynasty Sons or hashtag SODFS. You can always hit us up, and we'll look to get back to as many people as we possibly can. Nate, one more thing here before we close it out.
Last thing I want to say is that at SODFS, and as far as DFS sports goes, things are ever changing. So as our lineups go into the weekend, things are going to change. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. You can find Dan at Dan Brown NFL. You can find me at Nate_FFL. Our lineups are going to change because you have to stay fluid in DFS. So please don't lock in our lineups, that we post on Thursday, Friday, because they're going to change a lot. Follow us through the weekend. Talk to us. We're here to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Until next time, SODFS is out of here. Much love, everybody.
SODFS is for entertainment only and to add value to your sports experience. We give you our advice and strategy that we will employ ourselves. SODFS is not intended for those under the age of 18.